been a bit of a renaissance of the like small little card game that you can teach in about 5 minutes and you can play a game in about 15 or 20 minutes. Love Letter is one of those games, a game that I really enjoy. Another game like that, it would be Coop or Coup, another game I really enjoy. A couple of reviews I did that you might want to check out if you will. But last year at Gen Con, I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Patrick Nickel, who is in charge of Crash Games. And we hit it off. It was we had a lot of fun, played a few games together. The guy's just a delight. And I don't want to say that and make you think, oh, well, of course he's going to like the game because the guy's his friend. Well, I mean, the game I'm going to show you is by Crash Games. But if you ask Patrick, I had to tell him flat out that a couple of the games he showed me at Gen Con last year, I was like, hey, I don't know. You know, so, but anyway, so the game he sent me, he asked me if I'd do a review of it, and I said, yeah, sure, man, just go ahead and send me the game. And he said, well, if you don't like it, are you going to trash on it? And I said, well, yeah, probably. But the game is Council of Verona. Now, those of you who are up on your William Shakespeare, my father is he's retired now, but he was a English teacher, high school English teacher for 40-some years. And this is, of course, the Council of Verona. Verona is the city that has Romeo and Juliet inside of it. And so this game is loosely based on Romeo and Juliet, but to the extent of the cards in the game have characters from the play. But that's the longest. I mean, thematically, the people make sense as far as, and like if you know your Romeo and Juliet, you'll understand, I guess, if you will. But the game, this is all the cards, very thin deck, and you get some wooden tokens. And that's it. That's the entire game. It's designed to be able to be carried with you. And I guess this is like Crash or Patrick's, he wants to make a series of pub crawl games, if you will. And these are games that you can just throw in your back pocket and you can take them out wherever you end up. And you and a group of people can just play a game really quick. So, and this game is totally that. It's a game that you can teach in a few moments. It takes a while maybe to like get the intricacies of the strategy and whatever. But you'll be up and running really quickly, and you'll be having a blast, because I really enjoyed this game. But I'm going to show you how to play, and then I'm going to tell you what I think works for the game, and then hopefully I'm going to impress upon you what type of game it is, so you can decide whether or not it's something that you're going to want to add to your game shelf. So anyway, the name again is the game of the name. The name of the game is Council of Verona. And all right, well, let's show you how to play this. Oh, just so you know, I get people complain that I don't go through the nuts and bolts of the game, and I figure you can look it up. But anyway, regardless, the game's for 2 to 4 people. I think it scales well. I played it with my wife with 2 players. She really liked it. I played it with a couple of my buddies, and then recently I played it at a like my local gaming store with a few random people, and we played 4-player games, and everybody had a blast playing it. But it takes about 15 minutes to play. That's what it says here, and that's pretty accurate. 15 minutes, and it says for 12 and over. I mean, I could see, like kids younger than that who are accustomed to card games being able to play it. But it has some intricacies, as you'll see. So it's probably not a kid's game per se. Anyway, so yeah, cool. Council of Verona. Let's play. What you see in front of you is the extent of the components of Council of Verona. You get a deck of cards, and then each person gets 4 of these tokens with a 0, 3, 4, or 5 on them. Those are the influence tokens that you use to score the points that are on them when you get done playing the round of the game that you're playing. Now, in a 2-player game, you'll get all 4 of these tokens, and you'll get to use them. In a 3 or a 4-player game, you would take the 4 out and you get rid of it. Now, on the other side of this is this little V for the Council of Verona. And normally when you have these, you keep them face down in front of you, and so people can't see what you have. I'm going to have them face up just so you can actually see it and just so you can understand what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm going to show you a 3 or a 4 player game, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove the 4 from each of these groups here and put those off to the side. Now, you have to give out the cards, obviously, so you can play the game. In a 3 or 4 player game, you will take this deck of cards and you'll deal out 1 card randomly to each person. And then, choosing a start player, you hand them the rest of the cards, and they pick one, and they hand it to the left. So you're doing a card draft. And you do that until you get down to the last 2 cards, and the last person then looks at those last 2 cards, picks one, and then the last card is actually discarded and not used in the game. So the last person doesn't get to pick first, and so because obviously picking first probably has a little bit of an advantage. But they do get the knowledge of knowing which card is not in the game, and so that is a little added bonus. In a 3-player game, everybody will have 4 cards. In a 4-player game, everybody will have 3 cards. In a 2-player game, just quickly, how do you set that up? You immediately take 3 cards out of the deck. There's 13 cards, and you randomly choose 3 cards. Nobody knows what they are. You put them back in the box. You take the other cards. You deal 5 of them to each person. And then each person then chooses 2 cards and gives them to the other player. So you kind of have a little bit of a card draft there, but you handing cards over to the other person. And then that's also kind of cool too, because then you know what cards they have, but also, they know what cards they gave you and things like that. So it's a fun little kind of bluff, counter bluff, give and take kind of thing. But anyway, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to show you a 3 or 4 player game. So for starters, I'm just going to move these tokens out of the way. And I do apologize, I do hate zooming in and out, but I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I have some more space here. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so we have these cards, and these cards will have on them several different people from the play. Like here's Lord Capulet. And this is what's called an influence card, because notice it has these little circles over the side. These circles where the little tokens can fit perfectly in them. Note, once again, these will be played face down when you play them, but for this instructional purposes, I'm just putting them face up. And Lord Capulet has an agenda, and his agenda is, if more Capulets than Montagues are on the council, then his agenda is complete. You have to complete the agenda on the card to score the points of the tokens that are over on this side of the card. And you'll notice that there's little adjustments. There's a +1, 0, and a -1. So depending on the token, like say this 3 guy here, he'd be 4 here, he'd be 3 here, he'd be 2 here. Pretty straightforward, right? Alright, cool. There's another card that you can play, and that's like an action card. And you play this card, you have the option of doing the action that is on the card. You don't have to do it, but you can if you want. And like he can move 1 character from council to exile. So like this is a card, you play it, you get to move him around. Here's another action card. Move 1 character from the council to exile. Another one. View any 2 influence tokens. So once those get laid down, you can view those. Now notice how this is Count Paris, and you'll notice that he is, big N, neutral in comparison to Benvolio, a name I've always liked, is a Montague, and Tybalt is a Capulet. And so that's how you can tell, because there's different agendas that are for each different side, if you will. And there are some cards. Oh, look, there's Romeo and Juliet. Aren't they pretty? Anyway, there's some like here, Friar Lawrence. He's a Montague, but he's also neutral, and so he'll count as both. And here's the nurse, and she counts as a neutral and a Capulet. Pretty simple, right? And like here, hers is move 1 character and exile to the council. There's also some of them that have the ability to move, like here, swap 2 influence tokens. So you take 1 and with another one, and you swap places with them. So you have other things that you can do. But anyway, so you have these deck of cards, and like the first player will go, and they'll look through their deck, and their hand, not their deck, and they'll take a card and they'll play one. So like here's Mercutio. They have this. He's neutral, and if more exiled, then on the council. And so he's going to place. No, he's got a +2 up there. And so if you want to put somebody on the council, you put them like this in the middle of the board. If you want to put somebody in exile, you just kind of put them over here on their side, like so. So since Mercutio wants more people to be exiled than on the council, I'm going to play that right there. So he's been exiled. And now after you play that card, you have the option of taking one of your tokens that you have and putting it on any card that is out there. So there's more cards out there. You could put a token on anything. It's important to note that after you've played the card isn't yours anymore. It's out there for anybody to move around and do whatever they want with, as far as as long as the abilities and whatever that they have allow them to affect the card. So you could take this 5 like so, and you could say, well, I'm going to put it on that +2. Because I'm going to try to get as many people exiled as possible so I can score those points. Now, but that might not be a very wise decision, because obviously it's one of those things where it's like, well, I'm putting a 5 on the +2. Well, that makes just sense. You have 5 points. Well, of course he's going to put it on the +2, so it's worth 7. So maybe you don't put the 5 there. Maybe you put the 3 there, or maybe you put the 3 on the +1, or maybe you put the 0 on the +2. Just to get them to, so maybe somebody will move that off of there, then, move it somewhere else. And so there's different things that you can do to like kind of bluff and counter bluff the other players that are playing. Now, so like the next person goes and, they just say, like here's Prince Aeschylus, and his agenda is of equal number of Montagues and Capulets on the council, or at least 4 neutrals are on the council. So he's kind of tricky, and you'll notice 0, 0, -1. So the next person says, let's just put him on the council. Maybe I can get Mercutio over here, and later on, and then we'd have some neutrals on there. And then he goes ahead and he puts a 3 on that one, and so then the next player says, well, I'm going to go ahead and put Lord Montague on there, and they put a 3. And so this is how the game kind of progresses. And so now you might have the next person who goes, and well, they don't want this person to maybe they think there's that 5 there, and so then they play an action card, and they're gonna say, well, we're gonna take her, and this nurse says they can move 1 character from exile to the council. And so they're going to take Mercutio and they're going to put him in the council. Now there's no limit to how many people can be on the council, and there's no limit to how many people can be in exile. It's whatever you want, and you can place them in either spot when you start off, obviously. And so this is how the game progresses. And one by one, I'm just going to kind of throw some cards down here. One by one, people will be placing these tokens, and they will be taking different actions, and they'll be putting different people in different places and what have you. And so eventually, what'll happen is that you'll get down to the last card of the game. I'm just going to throw these down here. And as soon as the last person is played, what'll happen is that people will then, let me just put the rest of these tokens. On your last turn, if you play an action card, you get to play an action. And if you play if you have any influence tokens left, because you don't have to put one down every single time you go, you can, if you want, if you have one left, you can put one down. And but if you have 2 left, you're only allowed to put 1 down. You can't put down more. But most likely you'd have gotten rid of some of your influence tokens. But after all is said and done, you look at each person's agenda and you see if they scored. So like Mercutio wanted more exiled than the council. Well, there's 5 over here exiled, and there are 7 in the council. So that card doesn't score, so we just get rid of it. But I should say we need to leave it there though. So the prince wanted either equal number of Montagues or Capulets. Well, there's 3 and 2. That didn't work. But they want, 4 neutrals on the council. Well, neutral, because remember, both neutral, neutral, neutral. So he scores. So green would score 3 points, but red has a 0 and -1. So unfortunately, that doesn't score anything because maybe that influence stone got moved there by somebody else and he wasn't able to get it off there or whatever. So red's at -1. So we go over to this one. And we have Lord Montague. If there's more Montagues than Capulets on the council, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So this one scores. Green gets +1, and red gets 3. And so green has 4, red has 3, and then we go over to this side. And we have Lord Capulet. If more Capulets than Montagues in the council, well, that doesn't do any good. And here we have, well, Romeo and Juliet. Oh, they're together. And that's their agenda is. Their agenda is to, no matter what, they want to end up together. So red scores 5. And so red has a total of 7. Green has a 5 here, but it's a -2. So, they had 4, and they had 7 as well. And blue gets 2 for that one, and they get 0 here and -1, and a 1 there. So it looks like what's going to happen is that red and green are going to tie, which, that's not really all exciting. The tiebreaker for the game, however, is whoever was first in the turn order goes. So if green played before red, then green wins, because it's one of those weird games where it's always better to go last in this game. It's weird. It's like a lot of times it's good to go right away because you have, like, when you get your cards, but when you're putting the card down first, you're kind of opening yourself up to everybody else to affect you. And so if you if you manage to win and you also had the misfortune or the handicap of going first, then the game credits that, and so they win. So green went for red, and so green would win that game, even though they both tied. So there you go. That's how you play a game of Council of Verona. Now, I just threw the cards down because I didn't want to go through each and every turn, but trust me, after you've played this game like twice, you start to actually really start figuring everything out. And there can be a little bit of a slowdown at times because people are trying to figure out exactly what they want to do in each turn. But I love that part of the game. I love the thinking. I like the logic of it, and I really like the strategy. But let me tell you exactly what I think and whether or not I think it might be good for your group. Just as an aside here, as you're well accustomed if you watch my videos, but as an aside, when I was in high school, and this is, I'm going to date myself as you were, but when I was in high school, I distinctly remember the Romeo and Juliet movie we got to see, and a few of you might be smiling right now. There was nudity in it. And I remember being like, and this is so stupid, I feel dumb, but I mean, it's like when I was like 16 and you see like a nanosecond of a girl's bare torso, you're just like, I just remember that. And then I remember a buddy that I haven't really thought of at all for years. His name was Jason. And not like the Jason I game with. I mentioned a guy named Jason I game with. This is not that guy. There's another guy totally, Jason. And I remember we had a student teacher, like the second day, when you watch the second half of the movie, right? You watch one half, and the next day you come back. And she was there, not student teacher, a substitute teacher. And she's like, well, does anybody remember where we were on the tape? Yeah, a tape. It wasn't a DVD. It was like a VCR, right? And so Jason's like, oh yeah, it's like right here. And I remember he was rewinding to just before the nakedness hit the screen. I just thought that was hilarious. I mean, so everybody's like, anyway, to be young again. But anyway, all right. So, and if you've watched that garbage with Claire Danes and who else was in that horrible remake of Romeo and Juliet, I had to watch that filth one day. That was just a horrible movie. But anyway, what did I think of Council of Verona? You know, I really dig short games that make me think. There's lots of games out there that you can play in like 15-20 minutes that they're just a time waster, you know, and it's like they're not really competitive and they're not really me trying to win. I'm just like, it's just whatever, play, let's just do this. Okay, you know. I mean, and there's games that are really short that are just ridiculous, like Win, Lose, Banana. I mean, which, you know, I guess technically is a game, but it's like nothing. But I really like games. Like I mentioned Love Letter and I mentioned Coup. And those are games that you can play really quickly, but you know, you actually feel like you're playing a game. You're making really interesting decisions. You're allowed to have strategies that carry over, you know, and you can feel like you're actually, you know, you feel like you know, when you're done, it feels substantial, if that makes any sense to you. I mean, it doesn't feel like I just, you know, pissed away 15 minutes of my time just so I can hopefully get the other two people done playing whatever game they are so we can, you know, play our Battlestar Galactica game or something like that. And it's one of those games that you play it and then immediately you're like, oh, I should have done that differently, I should have done that differently. And then you want to play it again. And that's the coolest thing about the game, is that you can play it so quickly. You know, it definitely is a game that the first time you play it, you just have no idea. It's just, but thankfully, once again, it's short. And after that, you're like, oh, okay, and you get to see all the cards, and you get to see how everything works, and you're like, oh, okay, and you start thinking in your head, okay, so what I could do is I could do this, or I can move that token there, or I can make sure that guy goes over to here, and things like that. But then what really starts kicking in is the fact that since these tokens have the different point values on them, you can, that's when like the kind of the bluff and the counter bluff starts happening. When you know, take somebody and you move them into exile, or if you're moving a token, you can convince somebody that, oh yes, I'm moving this token over here because it's worth a lot of points, and then they move it away and they put it somewhere else, and then like little do they know they're actually moving your really good token to some place that you actually wanted to put it, and things like that. And that's when like you kind of have to try to outthink yourself in a lot of situations, actually, because and you have to outthink your opponents as well. And nothing, the best part of this game is after all the cards have been played and the climactic, and let's see what the tokens say, and you turn them over and you tabulate your score and you see it. And then that's when you have that moment where you're like, oh, that's where your 4 was, or that's where your 5 was, and stuff like that. And that's when the game you know, kind of transcends above itself. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're never gonna compare this to, you know, any real deep brain burner or anything like that. But you know, as far as, you know, the interesting choices and the gameplay, I've said this a lot. You know, there's a lot of game in this little tiny box, and you know, I mean, and like you can get like flux in a game like this, and that's, you know, that's not even half the game is this. Not taking anything away from flux. I mean, flux has its purpose, you know, but I mean, this has, with just these few little cards, stuff like that, I mean, it's like 2-3 times the game of games that like come in a package this small. And you know, I mean, I know that the game is going to go through Kickstarter. It'll be super cheap to pick up through Kickstarter. Once it gets published, it'll be probably even cheaper to pick up. But I'm looking forward to backing it just so I can get the cool little extra rewards and what have you. So, so yeah, I mean, what kind of gamer is going to like it? Somebody that likes to lie and bluff. Somebody that likes to, you know, think strategies through, you know, like a turn or two ahead of time. So like if I do this, I do this, or if I got to move this over there. And, you know, just, and you have to be able to like try to think on an extra level. You can't just make a move You know, if you just take like what you think is the best possible move and thinking one move, one turn, one move, you know, you'll still do fairly well. But I mean, you have to kind of go above and beyond that. You have to try to start to think about what the other players are going to do. I mean, and think about what cards might they have if they still have a card in their hand that you can't see, and things like that. And so you have to, and that's the whole purpose of like the knowing what all the cards are in the game, and after you've played it, you know, 2 or 3 times, and that's when it really starts to be fun. So yeah, so there you go. If you're looking for a really light, really quick game that's short on rules but long on gameplay, I highly recommend Council of Verona. I've had a blast from the first time I played it, and now I've played it probably a good 9-10 times. So, and I've had a blast every single time. And like I said, it scales well from 2, 3, or 4. So, all right. So there you go. I believe the Kickstarter is starting actually the next day. I just did this video. It's starting the next day. So I will put that link below my video, and you can go ahead and check that out and see if it's something you want to pick up. If you have any questions or concerns or ideas, or just want to say win, lose, banana towards me, go ahead and post that below, and then I will try to answer those to the best of my ability. And I'm pretty sure the designer and Patrick Nickel will be more than happy to pipe in too and answer any questions you might have. As always, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and to give me a chance to tell you about the hobby that I love. So, until next time, this is Undead Viking. You have an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye now.